Good morning, everybody. I'm just waiting for the attendees to pick up. So if you could just bear with me for a minute, please. I'll give it until 2 minutes past, then we'll get going. It's a mistake, Johnny. Ignore me.
I always do.
Can't even comment. Okay, I think that's good to go. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us again today. For those that it's your first time, welcome. And for those that are returning after 1 or 2 sessions, last Tuesday and last Thursday, welcome back. We must have got something right if you're joining us again. Let's go in. So today is episode 2 in this 3-part series that we've designed. And the focus of today's presentation is on customer identity and access management, as you see in the red tram lines there. And then, as per last week, we will follow that up with sort of a breakout session, which we're calling an interactive deep dive at the same time this week, Thursday. So, just go to the next slide. I took this slide from Paul's presentation on Tuesday. It's a relatively new slide from WSO2, and I really liked it. What I thought came across well with this slide was that it shows the identity and access management pillar on the right-hand side, but it shows how WSO2 has a complete API and integration platform. It's a message that WSO2 has presented for a long time. And this slide shows that in a slightly different way, but the message remains consistent. However, one of the things that we have started to see, and I think WSO2 has started to see in the market, is there are some customers who are electing to deploy the identity server as a standalone service in support of their identity and access management architecture and strategy. So I've just presented the slide so there is some context for you in terms of where this fits into the overall WSO2 platform stack, as well as the fact that it can be deployed standalone or independently. So today's session, which is designed to be 2 hours in length, although that is a little bit dependent on the Q&A, is essentially the same as we had last week. And sorry, I'm just... Nick, can you confirm which video is showing? Because I see Johnny on the screen. I don't know if...
Now I see your presentation.
But and the video, what video did you see?
I had all the attendees.
Okay.
Not attendees, panelists.
All the panelists, yeah. Okay.
Now it's just you.
I've just changed it to Spotlight now, so sorry about that. So the same concept that we introduced last week, Tuesday, we continue to flow through with. So that is that the Tuesday sessions are designed as a package. That package is an introductory vision, and that is then followed by a focused product presentation, and of course today the focus being the identity server. And then we provide some practical insight in the terms of a case study, and then open the floor up to the panel to respond to any Q&A. So we haven't designed it so that speakers take questions during the session, although that might happen. So feel free to post your questions on the chat or on the Q&A. A speaker may elect to respond to that question in real time, or we pick it up at the end of the session. So, it really is exciting and a privilege to be able to be given the opportunity to talk through a real life case study from a developing South African brand that is gaining a lot of traction in the market and is extremely topical, obviously because of our current circumstances and how digital and digital banking specifically is becoming more and more prevalent sort of these days, and like I said, given these circumstances. So we've been working from a WSO2 and DeARX perspective with TymeBank for some time, and we're really grateful for the opportunity to be able to share some of the insights that we've gained over that time, specifically today focusing on the identity and access management component, but we remain with TymeBank as we move into the session next week and start to look at cloud and time in AWS, but more about that later. Okay, so to introduce you to today's speakers, no less illustrious than we presented last week, Tuesday, and again, a privilege and exciting for us at DeARX to have our opening keynote address presented by Prabath Siriwardena. Prabath is an industry player in the identity and access management space. He holds the role of the VP of Security Architecture at WSO2, and specifically is also the GM for the Identity and Access Management product. So we thank and welcome Prabath to today's session. Like I said, we're then going to get into the identity server itself, and solution architect from WSO2 is Johann Nallatamby, who some of you may have interacted with over the last couple of years. And no doubt we will all benefit from his knowledge and insight as he updates us on the latest around the product. And then DeARX's Johnny Lewis will take us into those insights around TymeBank. So he has spent a lot of his time over the last few years in that environment, and we look forward to what he will share with us in that space. For those that attended the session last week, you will know I was talking about a 38,000 kilometer round trip and boasting about the fact that we were ensuring that you got to travel during these times. So today is no different. You continue with your travels via the technology of Zoom. And today's round trip tops last week at the 40,653 kilometer mark. And that is because we really do span. I mean, we literally are crossing from end to end of this globe. So welcome to the morning, although by no means light, as it is now midnight for Prabath. So thank you, Prabath, for taking time out of your sleep. Although from what I've seen interacting with Prabath in preparation for today's session, I don't think he sleeps at all. He's available, seems to be 7/24. The call center in himself. And then stretching to the other side of the world, at the home of WSO2 in Colombo, is Johann. And then down here in South Africa, down in Cape Town, we have Johnny, and I'm sitting in Johannesburg. So yeah, with that, I'd like to hand over to Prabath.
Thanks, Steve. Hope you can see my slides now. Can you?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining in. I'm Prabath Siriwardena from WSO2. I've been with the company for last 13 years and mostly worked on building the WSO2 identity server. WSO2's vision in IAM is to build an API-driven, developer-focused IAM product to address CIM use cases. We believe in moving forward. Every service you develop, every API you design, every device you use, every person you interact with will have managed identity. In building a CIM solution, you need to integrate with all these components and you can't operate in silos. That we see as a need for a developer-focused IAM product to build a CIM solution. Identity Server is an open source IAM product released under the Apache 2 license. At the moment, we have 200 plus paid production customers and 500 plus educational institutes using Identity Server globally. That's in addition to 1,000 plus completely open source deployments with no WSO2 subscriptions. I would say 90% of Identity Server deployments are customer facing, addressing CIM use cases across multiple verticals, including financial, government, healthcare, education, automobile, retail, and many more. We have a very active Slack community. So if you have any questions related to the product, we invite you to join our Slack channel. The entire Identity Server development team is on it to help you. Identity Server was recognized multiple times by different analysts. Kupincha Cole named us an overall leader in the Leadership Compass for Identity API platforms in 2019 and an innovation leader in the Leadership Compass for CIM platforms in 2018. With the little background I shared with you with respect to the company and the product, I believe will qualify us as a well-established vendor in the domain to talk about CIM. The major goal of CIM is to drive the revenue growth by leveraging identity data to acquire and retain customers. It will build an identity-centric ecosystem to nurture an anonymous website visitor into a well-known loyal customer. We have come across multiple phases in the past, and today at the age of customer, identity has become the glue for all contextual marketing. In doing that, in our journey towards CIM, we face multiple challenges. In a typical workflow, many follow to onboard a customer. We start with an anonymous website visitor, then nurture this anonymous website visitor to a lead and to a qualified lead, and finally to a customer. There can be multiple variations of this flow, and we could be using multiple channels to onboard customers. When we have multiple channels, multiple points of connections and data sources, that leads us to another problem. Data related to anonymous users may reside under marketing data sources. Data with respect to leads and sales might be under CRM data sources. Then the identity data of customers would be under the IAM system. With this approach, we'll end up having siloed data sources, and those siloed data sources may not know how to talk to each other. 52% of marketing leaders responsible for data and analytics believe data integration and data management are the most time-consuming activities. Also, over 1/3 of marketers say the inability to integrate data is the biggest obstruction to the success of the analytics teams. This is a real challenge. We need to find a solution. Then protecting consumer data at large scale. Unlike in workforce IAM, in a typical CIM system, we work with millions of users. We need to worry about how we securely store the PII data of these users and preserve privacy. This is another challenging area we need to worry about. When we build a CIM solution to address these challenges, these are the core functional requirements we need to worry about. All of them are very much self-explanatory, so I won't go into the details. Then again, what matters most here is how you build these core CIM features to address some of the key non-functional requirements. Scalability is one key requirement in any CIM system. Unlike in workforce IAM, in CIAM, the difference between the average load and the peak load is considerable. So in a traditional way, if you provision your hardware to address the peak load, you'll end up wasting a lot of your resources. In one of the financial institutes we worked with, they were building a CIM solution for over 1.5 million customers. On an average day, they expect 350,000 logins, having daily peak times around 9 to 10 a.m., 12 to 1 p.m., and then 3 to 4 p.m. Even if we assume 300,000 users will log in the system during this 3 hours peak time, the expected load per minute would be around 1,700 users. But in 2 days every month, they expect 5,000 logins per second, that is 300,000 users per minute. Those 2 days are the payday and the day after that. So the average load is 1,700 logins per minute, while the peak load is 300,000 logins per minute. So that's a huge difference between the average load and the peak. So just having the ability to address scalability needs is not just enough. Your CIM system should know how to auto scale up and down based on the demand. Then the security. If you handle any customer data, the security should be one of the topmost priorities. You would need to worry about how your CIM system stores and processes PII data, how it talks to external systems, and also how the communications happen among the components of the CIM system itself. Also the customers, they do expect some control around how you collect, store, manage, and share their profile data. Any misuse of customer data, whether deliberate or not, can significantly damage the brand equity. Yahoo, for example, was in the middle of a series of data breaches a few years back that exposed the PII data of more than 1 billion users. That did cost the company 350 million USD. They had to lower the sales price of its email and other digital services, which they had sold to Verizon, from 4.83 billion to 4.48 billion to account for the potential backslash from the data breaches. Usability is another key aspect. There are two types of users who need access to your CIM system: your customers and some of your employees. The customers demand low friction access both during the registration flow and the login flow. Then some of your employees like help desk administrators or the CXOs. CXOs especially would expect your CIM system to build dashboards to give a better business oversight. Then comes the extensibility. Both the extensibility and the developer focus go hand in hand. Organizations need continuously improve the level of consumer engagement and adapt to the changes in technology, business models, competition, regulations, and customer preferences. To address that, you need an agile, event-driven CIM platform that can flex to meet both new business opportunities and new challenges. So your CIM system should be able to address common CIM needs out of the box, while its architecture should permit extending the platform to address unique business requirements. That's why we see CIM is a solution you build, not a single product you buy. Then again, there's a misconception that some do sell CIM as a product. if you are familiar with ESB or the enterprise service bus, that this is quite similar to how some sold ESB as SOA or the service-oriented architecture probably decade back when SOA and ESB were quite popular. SOA is in fact a pattern, and ESB along with other integration tools and proper architectural designs help you build a service-oriented architecture. ESB itself, you cannot call it SOA. The same analogy applies to CIAM. An identity provider itself alone doesn't bring in CIAM. It has to be integrated with other systems like CRM systems, marketing platforms, e-commerce platforms, then fraud detection systems, risk engines, CMS systems, data management platforms, and many more. To cater these requirements, your CIAM solution has to be extensible, API-driven, and developer-friendly. That will help you reduce the cost as well as the time to market. Over the time, we have spoken to hundreds of customers and probably thousands of leads. From all those conversations, what we have learned is different customers are at different levels of maturity in building a CIAM solution. Some even don't know they are doing CIAM. Most businesses do start with level 0 or non-existence. At this level, you don't worry about tracking any customer interactions. Probably you don't have an online portal, and probably you don't do any sales online. In case you have an online portal, you may use it only to share your product and contact information and would not expect any dynamic customer interactions. Probably you may use systems like Viber, WhatsApp, or a phone line to accept orders, but still you don't worry about tracking who places which order. Many restaurants, taxi services, retail stores, and family businesses follow this model at the start. When you walk into a restaurant, no one knows about you. Even if it is the same restaurants, you are going back again and again. Each time you need to pick where you want to be seated and what you want for the meal. Same applies for many taxi services other than probably Uber and Lyft. Whenever you order a taxi, you need to share the address you need to go. You can't just say, drop me home or drop me to the office. Level 1 or the managed identity phase, you only worry about onboarding your customers to the system and digitally manage their identities. Even under level 1, the emphasis different companies put on how they want to manage their customer identities varies. One may only worry about onboarding customers via an online portal and then let them authenticate to the system via username and password. And another company would worry about integrating with social IDPs for registration, enabling strong authentication options with adaptive authentication, integrate with risk engines, do identity analytics, and so on. What you do in this phase is distributed across a broader spectrum. But still, you only worry about managing identities. No CRM system in place, no customer preference management system in place. I would say most of the companies who are working towards a digital strategy are in this phase, or at least start with this phase. Then again, the question is how long you want to be in this phase. We've worked with many companies who've been in this phase for years, and some even for more than a decade. What we've seen is the more you are in this phase, you start building disconnected identity silos. You may use a federation between applications and identity providers, but still will end up having multiple federation silos, probably by different departments. Each department may have its own identity store and identity provider, which will result in duplication of identity information across the company. Level 2 is one step forward from the managed identity phase. Here you have an identity management system in place, And you also worry about having a CRM system, a marketing platform, an e-commerce platform, a CMS, a data management platform, and many more to know about your customers better. One deficiency we see in the companies in this phase is, even though they collect customer data at different contact points, the data sources are still disconnected and does not help in building a unified profile for a given customer. When you want to generate a report across multiple data sources, that would require high labor intensive process with human involvement. And even in some cases, you may fail to find a correlation among different data sources. This is in fact the phase we see a company would start worrying about a CIM system. Once you are in this phase, you'll understand the benefits in building a unified view of a customer. And at the same time, you'll start realizing the deficiencies in a current system that prevent you from getting there. Level 3 is the connected phase. This is the phase where you start integrating your IAM system with your CRM system, marketing platform, e-commerce platform, CMS, data management platform, and others. This helps in building a unified view of your customer, so you can see how long it took to nurture an anonymous lead to a loyal customer. Progressive profiling is too part of this phase. When you onboard a customer, you only request a minimal set of information. But as he or she starts using the system will start learning more. The system can learn more from the user's behavior or else directly ask from the user for inputs. Irrespective of how the system learns about the user, it will feed the data into the IAM system using APIs. This helps the IAM system to make much informed decisions with respect to the user's actions, as well as share a unified profile of the user among all the other applications. Another advantage you see in integrating IAM with other business platforms is that you can track the customers across multiple platforms or multiple devices. Most of the marketing platforms track users by cookies. So when you use cookies, you can't track a user across multiple devices. But having your marketing platform integrated with the IAM system helps you identify user interactions across devices. This is one reason, I would say arguably, why Google introduced Gmail. You are always logged into a Gmail account, so Google can correlate your search patterns with your identity, and they can do that across all the devices. Then again, Apple ID, probably introduced for the same reason. When you use Apple ID, Apple knows which apps you use from your mobile device as well as outside of your mobile device. To build a CIM system in this phase, you would need more than an identity provider. You need to worry about integrating systems, exposing data as APIs, managing those APIs, and many more. This is why we see many customers in this phase work with system integrators to build a CIM solution if they don't have a strong development team in-house. Finally, the level 4 or the optimized phase. Omnichannel access is a key feature we see in the companies who operate at this level. In an omnichannel environment, the customers interact with the businesses via multiple channels, but will still get a seamless, continuous user experience. For example, if you use a Newsweek iPhone app to highlight some content, once you view the same from the web, you should find it still highlighted. Amazon, in fact, took the retail order placing system to the next level with Alexa. If you are an Amazon customer, you can place an order via its website, mobile app, Alexa, or even via Kindle. When Amazon announced Amazon Books a few years back, their intention was to bring the same digital experience to the physical world. If you visit an Amazon bookstore, you will see the book reviews, ratings, and many other digital-only features there. Then Amazon Go. There it uses sensors to track items as we put them into the cart or return them to the shelf. And finally, your Amazon account gets automatically charged with no cashier involved. So this is the next level of omnichannel experience Amazon is building. Then the CXO dashboards is another key feature we see in this phase of CIAM. The CXO dashboards get updated in near real time with the data with respect to the current status of business, and also the predictions derived from integrating with machine learning systems. Also, in this phase, machine learning and behavior analytics are being used to suggest how you can design better, more effective UX A/B testing for user registration and login flows. We only see a small percentage of companies at this optimized level. Okay, finally, the takeaways. The goal of CIAM is to drive the revenue growth by leveraging identity data to acquire and retain customers. Organizations need to continuously improve the level of consumer engagement and adapt to the changes in technology, business models, competition, regulations, and customer preferences. An agile, event-driven CIAM platform can flex to meet both new business opportunities and new challenges. The CIAM system should be able to address common CIAM needs out of the box, while its architecture should permit extending the platform to address unique business requirements. WSO2's vision in IAM is to build an API-driven, developer-focused IAM product to address CIAM use cases. Thank you very much. Steve, do we take questions now, or are there any questions on the chat?
I haven't seen any questions on the chat, so what I'll do is just let that go, and we'll switch over to Johann.
Sure.
And then we'll pick up on that a little bit later.
Sure.
So I just want to get the... Okay, so hopefully I've sorted the video out there. Prabath, that was an awesome presentation, and thank you for sharing that with us. Just want to share the screen. I think, please excuse my slowness here. I think that, you know, as a keynote, that hit the mark beautifully. You know, if you are busy contemplating or designing a CIAM strategy for your business, I think you've given an awesome recipe in terms of the challenges, the opportunities, the maturity phases, and thank you for that. I think our audience will benefit materially from that. I'd like to just hand over to Johann now. So I'm sure he'll pick up on it in terms of now from a product perspective, and then position that relative to the points that you were making in terms of CIAM being an architecture and a strategy rather than merely a product. But Johann, if you can take us through the identity server from a WSO2 perspective, please.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can. And do we have your screen?
I shared my screen.
Yeah.
Hope you can see. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. So the objective of my session is basically to follow up on what Prabath has just talked about, give you an overview of the product, and talk about kind of reiterate on what Prabath was explaining as our vision, and then look at our roadmap in terms of how we are going to achieve that vision. So my name is Johann Nallatamby. I am a solutions architect in the WSO2 IAM business unit of WSO2. Yeah. So the WSO2 identity and access management product is the #1 open source IAM product in the market right now for customer identity and access management. So we have comprehensive capabilities around identity federation, strong customer authentication, adaptive access control, and API security. One of the key strengths of the identity and access management product, WSO2 identity and access management product, is its unique extensibility. So this feature actually comes in very useful when we are going to build that require business use cases. So let me give you a very quick brief about the product capabilities. So I will not go into a lot of detail, but I will try to keep it as brief as possible just to introduce you to the product. The first and foremost feature I would like to talk about is the identity federation and single sign-on capability. Because with any organization, as they onboard on their journey of IAM, they would start by integrating their applications and systems and mobile applications with a centralized IAM system to authenticate their users and provide access to various on-premises and cloud systems. So this is what we call identity federation. And as a result of identity federation being centralized to a IAM solution, such as WSO2, we get the single sign-on. In order to do this identity federation, there are various industry standards, such as SAML2 single sign-on, OpenID Connect, WS Federation, and CAS. So WSO2 Identity Server supports all these well-known standards in the industry. We also have the capability of identity bridging. So what identity bridging is, the WSO2 Identity Server can, in fact, authenticate its users by itself. So when I say by itself, it can use various authentication mechanisms like username, password, SMS OTP, etc. But at the same time, it can integrate, or we call it identity federation, federate with third-party and partner and customer identity providers. So this is what we call basically federated identity management. So what this allows you to do is allow your customers or your partners to use their existing identities in order to gain access to your applications instead of creating duplicate identities in your organization. So in doing this bridging, Identity Server can support protocol translation. That is, the applications and the IDPs at your partner or your customer may not be supporting the same protocol. So Identity Server, being the bridge of this federation, could do the protocol translation for you. As well as in an identity federation, we exchange information. So we exchange user attributes, or we call it user claims. We exchange user groups, user roles. So these are identified by their names. Unfortunately, not all the organizations or all the standards, that for that matter, follow the same naming convention. So therefore, we need a capability to translate these claims, roles, and groups, and that can be done by the Identity Server for you. Then we can also do different mechanisms of authentication. So like I said before, we can do a knowledge-based authentication, such as username, password, PIN, challenge questions. We can do a possession-based authentication. We can do SMS OTP, email OTP, mobile authenticator applications. We can do FIDO to passwordless authentication, certificates-based authentication, and many more authentication mechanisms. When it comes to identity provisioning and administration, identity server can integrate with your existing or new directories that you want to have to store your users. It can also support various onboarding workflows for your users. So for example, we can support like simple user creation by administrator, or we can support a self-registration flow with either email or mobile number verification or both. We can support a just-in-time provisioning workflow if the users are federating, like I said before, from your partner IDPs or like a social IDP like Facebook or Google. You can just-in-time create an account for those users without any administrator involvement. We can do outbound provisioning to other target applications while you're provisioning the user in identity server. And we can also extend this by integrating with our very own enterprise integrator and WSO2 business process server to extend the identity provisioning and the approvals or the workflow capabilities during these identity provisioning workflows. Under authorization, we support the traditional role-based authorization. Then going a bit more fine-grained, we can support permission-based authorization and also attribute-based authorization using XACML 3.0 architecture. Then modern organizations, all of them require APIs and microservices in some form. And API security and microservices security are a hot topic these days. So in that front, we support many standards, especially the OAuth 2.0 core standard, then the extended profiles of OAuth 2.0, and the OpenID Connect suite of standards that are built on OAuth 2.0. Then the UMA 2.0 standard, which is built on top of both of these standards, OAuth 2 and OpenID Connect. So WSO2 Identity Server, in fact, supports this entire suite of specifications, very comprehensive support for APIs and microservices security. And then when it comes to customer IAM, consent and privacy are key features that are required. So any data that your organization collects from your customers, any data that you store, and any data that you share with other applications, especially third-party applications, you have to make sure that the users are giving their consent, and this consent has to be very fine-grained, and it has to be time-bound as well. And at any point, the user should be able to go and review his consents, and also be able to revoke these consents if he believes the application is misusing his consent. So this is an overall, brief of the features in the product. So this is one of the important elements in the product which I mentioned, that is the open architecture. So this diagram depicts one of the most important components or the frameworks in our product, which is the Identity Federation and Access Control Framework. This is the framework that is used when an application interacts with the identity server and user authenticates with the identity server, etc. And also on the right-hand side, you have the provisioning framework. So you can see each of these layers in these frameworks are pluggable extension points. So based on your unique business requirement, if the out-of-the-box capability is not sufficient, then you can extend the very specific aspect of the product in order to fulfill your business requirement. So you don't need to customize the entire product, but you can extend the very specific aspect of the product in order to minimize the customizations for your business use cases. And using this framework, there are many connectors and plugins that we've written, WSO2 internal developers as well as the community have written and contributed. So these connectors span a wide variety of extension points. For example, authentication connectors, provisioning connectors, identity proofing connectors, identity stores, various OAuth 2 security profiles, etc. So these are some of the examples of our connectors, and there are more than 50 connectors in our WSO2 connector store. Also, another connector recently we've got is for the SIEM integration with Splunk. So the identity server natively publishes its events to third-party systems. So in order to integrate with a product like Splunk, we just need to write a connector to capture the already published data and push it into Splunk by integrating with Splunk APIs. So these are out-of-the-box data that is published by identity server that we just need to push it to Splunk and create these charts, graphs, and tables. Being a CIM leader, we need to be able to brand our end-user facing pages based on the organization requirements. So identity servers end-user pages all come white labeled so that you can easily brand these pages according to your requirements. In addition to branding, we can also support internationalization and localization. And the branding is made so simple especially in the very latest version of the product, that you can you don't need to meddle with any of the business logic in these applications, but you can simply replace the CSS HTML components and do your customizations, which we call sub-theming, by the way. So these are some examples of our actual customer deployments who are rebranding the WSO2 pages to fit their organization requirements. So now let me talk about some of the latest developments that we've done in our last 2 releases. So we've done developments, improvements in 4 areas. So under developer experience, we've introduced a React.js based user portal, which we also call the self-care portal, which succeeds the older Jaggery based user portal. As I mentioned, we introduced the sub-theming capability for easily applying your themes and applying UI level customizations. A new config model, which we call deployment.toml. So this is a single configuration file to configure the entire WSO2 product in a single file. So earlier we had a configuration spread across multiple XML files. Now we've made it simpler to configure it using just one file. We are moving away from Confluence based documentation, and we move to GitHub based documentation to be more modern and follow the trend, the developer based approach. All the product REST APIs have now been converted to, the older SOAP APIs have now been converted to REST APIs for easier integration. In terms of user experience, we've introduced the most sought after FIDO 2.0 passwordless authentication. We have introduced cross-protocol global logout so that you can log out from one application and you can rest assured you can be logged out from all the applications globally, irrespective of the protocol that they support. We've given first-class support for mobile, the mobile phones or mobile numbers as a second factor verification channel when you are doing self-registration or profile updates. And also we've increased the usage of Google reCAPTCHA in various identity management flows in order to detect and prevent the bot attacks. In terms of IAM standards, which is always evolving, in the last couple of releases, we've introduced the SAML2 front channel logout, improvements around OpenID Connect logout, OpenID Connect Federation, JWK's endpoint, and scope management and SCIM2 pagination. In terms of the DevOps experience, we've improved the observability aspects of the product, and there are many more aspects in the DevOps experience that we are in the process of improving, targeting to our future CIM solution. So this is just an example of the self-care portal. As I said, this is a single page application based on React, and it provides you the easy theming and customization capabilities that you want. So going to our vision, so these are 2 quotes extracted from Gartner's report. So Gartner basically says that the current commercial solutions that are available fall short in providing a sophisticated CIAM solution to meet requirements of user experience, compliance, privacy, and fraud detection. So this is one of the key drivers by the industry is looking at a developer-friendly or a developer-focused CIAM solution that empowers the developers. So as Prabath mentioned, I will reiterate, the WSO2 recognizes CIAM as not just a one-off event, rather a journey. So CIAM projects don't end in like 6 months or 1 year. They tend to go on beyond a year, go on till about 3 to 5 years. You continuously get new requirements, new applications being onboarded, new channels that you need to open, new new security requirements that are mandated by the industry, the vertical, or the competition out there. So your CIAM solution is always evolving, and there is no solution out there in the market, commercial solution out there in the market that is like a one-stop solution for all your CIAM requirements, and especially to cater to your unique business requirements. So it's always a hybrid between a commercial off-the-shelf product and a product that's developed internally, application that is developed internally in your business that caters to your business. So we identify that CIAM developers are the most important participants in this journey, and we have taken up the vision of enabling, empowering these CIAM developers in order to become the #1 developer-focused CIAM solution in the market. So when we look at a CIAM solution, this is the broad portfolio of the CIAM functionality. CIAM basically addresses two sub segments of use cases. One we call business to business, and the other is the business to consumer. So in both of these segments, basically you have 4 key areas that we identify. Identity management. So identity management is all about how you're going to integrate your directories, onboard your users, manage the life cycles of the users, manage organizations, that is organizations in the sense your custom organizations, how you're going to provision users to external applications, progressive profiling, and password management. Access management is all about how you're going to configure and govern your policies in order to let your users, your customers, access applications in your environment and also outside your environment. So this is all about identity federation, the claims transformation, single sign-on, global logout, multi-factor authentication, and many other capabilities that I've spoken about. Then we have the portals, which are responsible for the end-user experience. So the developer portal basically offers the experience that is required by the developers who are going to configure these applications, who are going to configure the access control policies, configure the login journeys for the user, etc. Then we have the delegated administration portal, where if you want to do delegated administration and give your customers the rights to administrate their own users, that will need a business portal, which we can call the delegated administration portal, to manage their own users, groups, and entitlements. Then we would have a customer care portal, typically in a call center, where the call center representative would want to do actions on behalf of the customer, or do view customer profiles, or do password changes on the request of customer, etc. Then there is a self-care portal, where the customers themselves can go and do their password management, challenge question management, their security devices management, etc. And then we could also have an access portal, where the customers can discover all the applications that they are entitled to access, and click and access all the applications from a single point with single sign-on enabled. Then, of course, the CXO dashboards, which kind of tells the CXOs how the IAM system and how the applications and the whole investment is kind of function. Then comes the integrations that goes beyond the IAM system and integrates with the entire ecosystem. So in this area, we are looking at integrations with various identity proofing systems, consent and preference management systems, biometrics and security as a service SaaS solutions, risk engines, content management systems, customer relationship systems, and various other customer solutions. And across all of this, we also need to keep in mind the extensibility, the white labeled nature of the UIs, the internationalization, localization, privacy by design and privacy by default, and the flexible deployment options. So what is the future of the WSO2 CIM solution? So as mentioned, our vision, we are trying to be the #1 developer focused CIM solution in the market. And in order to get to our vision, we recognize 3 key elements in our mission. So one is the developer focused, as already mentioned. Secondly, the cloud nativeness or the cloud readiness of the solution to support modern, highly scalable cloud native platforms and architectures. And third, the integrations and partnerships with third-party vendors to build a comprehensive IAM ecosystem. So this is an upcoming product or solution from WSO2. Yeah, WSO2 is working on its customer developer focused customer identity as a service solution with a new brand name called Asgardio. So this is designed to cater to today's cloud first organizations. It is going to be an integrated CIM solution in the cloud. So it's a one-click solution to all your CIM needs in the cloud. Of course, it's backed by the WSO2 Identity Server. So in terms of timelines, we are looking at pre-sign up starting from September 2020, beta in November 2020, and the GA somewhere around early to 2021. So in terms of our CIM mission and our goal towards Asgardio, we planned our roadmap into 3 phases. So the first phase, which is currently undergoing, is going to be focusing on the API-led integration of the product and the developer focus, improvements in the developer focus, and improvements around the cloud nativeness of the product. In the second phase, of course, it's going to be an extension of some of those aspects in the first phase. And mainly, we are going to focus on building partnerships and integrations with other vendors related to the IAM technology and other marketing and data platforms, etc. And of course, in the third phase, it's all going to be about building that integrated CIM solution in the cloud with the results that we've achieved from phase 1 and phase 2. So just to highlight some of the items in this roadmap. So in the phase 1, we are looking at more developer friendliness and cloud friendliness. So in that regard, as I mentioned before, we are developing our portals completely on React. We are developing SDKs. Right now, we've completed SDKs on .NET, JavaScript, and Android, and a few other languages. We are working on a VS Code editor plugin to develop our adaptive authentication scripts and give the debugging capability. Also, the continuous integration and continuous development and deployment, where you can directly edit the scripts in the VS Code editor and then push it to your source repository, and then through a CI/CD pipeline deploy it into development, test, and production. Then we are working on OPA, Open Policy Agent integration for fine-grained access control in this authentication flows. Then in terms of improvements around the device management, we are introducing the device authorization grant flow and the client-initiated back-channel authentication. Also improving the push notification-based authentication capabilities. And one of the most important things we are going to do towards the latter part of the year is the decomposition of the identity server application we have right now. So right now we have a monolith application. So we are going to decompose that into some key components, namely the gateway, the service layer, and the various portals, to reduce the footprint of these components and be able to easily start up and easily scale in cloud native architectures. In the second phase, it's going to be an extension of the phase one. So we will keep on improving our integration with the various systems. Specifically, we will be working on the login journey designer, that is for the users to be able to use some kind of wizard and design their login journeys. Then the consent and preference management for third-party applications, family management, and also be able to support like multi-cloud and hybrid deployments for identity server. So I mentioned about the gateway. So one of the hybrid deployments, for example, would be where you can do all the administration and the management of the product in the cloud, but the gateway, the identity gateway will be running on premise. So that would mean that all the authentication, authorization, and access control requests will be only interacting with the gateways. So they don't need to go to the cloud. So this can help you with the compliance requirements, etc. We are looking at various tenancy models, not just a shared tenancy model, but also hybrid tenancy model and private jet. That is, each customer can have its own tenant kind of scenario for like marquee customers. Then the compliance aspects, of course, when it comes to a cloud, we should be compliant with various industry standards and regional requirements, and also should be able to deploy this cloud in various regions based on the requirements. And phase 3, of course, is going to be putting all this together in the CIM cloud as a solution. So that will contain integrations with consent and preference management systems, marketing solutions, data management platforms, CMS systems, and even blockchain systems. So that is like a high level overview of our roadmap. I think this would give you an idea of what is our mission and where we are heading towards, and what is coming up in the WSO2 roadmap in the near future. So I would, yeah, so just before ending, so these are some screenshots from our ongoing development. So this is work in progress. So if you're familiar with our administration console that we have right now, these are some, this is the successor for that. So this is a React-based portal, which is going to be our new developer portal. We are renaming the admin portal to developer portal. So this is going to be that. Some more screenshots, completely focusing on the user experience. So I would like to end my session with this quote from the very famous Satya Nadella. So basically, regardless of what industry or what business you are in, you have to think about your future in the digital world. So gone are the times where you can easily buy an off-the-shelf product and be happy that your problems are solved, but you should look at your company as an IT organization to tackle the challenges in the ever-evolving digital space. So this kind of reiterates that our vision of CIEM is kind of correct, and the CIM solution will keep on evolving, and developers are one of the important participants in this journey. So our vision is to empower these developers to face the challenges of an ever evolving CIM solution. Thanks. So if there are any questions, I can take it now, or I can answer it.
Johann, thank you so much for that. That was an excellent presentation. And in terms of our packaging of today, following on from Prabath presenting us with a really well thought out CIAM vision, you've taken us comprehensively through what WSO2 has done and is doing from a product perspective in terms of identity server. And it is clear that not only do you have a strong offering, but that the roadmap and the vision are clear. The only question that we did receive during your presentation, Johann, which I'll address, related to subscription, and I think it also connected to the point I made earlier about certain clients looking at WSO2's identity server and CIM offering as a standalone offering. And I just want to make sure that there isn't any confusion there. So specifically the question was, does a standalone IAM implementation require a support subscription? And the answer is that irrespective of whether you're using the broader WSO2 platform, including the tools such as the Enterprise Integrator and API management, or whether you're using any of the platform capabilities such as Identity Server in a standalone fashion, the decision process around whether to take subscription and support from WSO2 is essentially the same. The products and the tools are all open source, and that doesn't change whether you're looking at platform or standalone. And your decision around whether to take out subscription as over and above remains the same. The actual pros and cons and support around identity type products versus something else within the platform, you could argue, you could look at that differently, but that's for a different debate or a different conversation. So hopefully I answered the question. If there's still any uncertainty, please feel free to let me know. Johann, we've not received any additional questions, so if we do later on, we'll pick that up in the open Q&A. Before I hand over to Johnny, just to mention, just watching the two presentations so far, the IP and the value shared in the two presentations is obviously significant and of huge value to anyone planning their future in this space. We will be making the presentations and this video recording from today's session available on our website fairly soon. So check into DeARX.co.za and under the events page there, we will publish it. And you can feel free to reach out to us if you have any problems with that. Okay, Mr. Johnny Lewis, you thumbs up and good to go. Can you share your screen and take us through some practical insights and how TymeBank has utilized the identity server product in their journey so far? Over to you.
There we go. So I'm just getting my screen share sorted out here, Steve. Can you guys see it?
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, welcome, and it's a pleasure to actually have this opportunity to share our story with you guys, and even more, it's such a pleasure following these two gentlemen, the two giants of CIM, as I like to call them. Thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. Hopefully they've given you guys some insights on what CIM is and the complexity behind it and how WSO2 is actually trying to solve this. But this is going to be a little bit different from my usual sharing of the WSO2 experiences. Today I'm going to be sharing to you guys the story of Time, how we started with Time and just our journey through where we were to where we are today, and specifically the CIM problems we were facing. Now I've got the question and answer window here. So I think before I had a look at the attendees, so there's quite a few names that I do recognize. So before somebody asks the question, yes, I am wearing a tie. I've got my battle attire on, and just gets me into the right mind space. And it's a little bit a different experience having a chat with a virtual audience. So I'm going to do my best to see if I can still bring that personal experience to you guys. Just for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Lewis. I'm part of the architecture team at DeARX and at Time itself. And I've been fortunate enough to be with Time from the very start. So not a lot of people get that experience and that opportunity to actually build a bank from scratch. So it is truly my pleasure to bring you our story. So just for everyone listening, if you in South Africa, you probably have seen TymeBank somewhere. If you're not from South Africa, let me just give you this brief introduction. TymeBank is South Africa's first proper digital bank, not just a traditional bank that has got digital offerings. But when we tackled this problem, we got rid of all the brick and mortar stores. We said no to traditional banking, and we wanted to bring a true digital experience to our customers. So our mission from the very start was financial inclusion. We saw the industry, the financial management industry, as a very polarizing market out there, and not just from a business point of view where you had the big five banks fighting over the same user base with small gains over the past few years, but demographics as well. So for us, bringing financial services to people who never thought it would actually be within their grasp was pretty fantastic, and that was our goal from the very beginning. So what is stopping financial inclusion? It boils down to one simple word: access. Africa sits with a very unique problem compared to the rest of the world, where we've got multiple varieties of income groups. We've got quite a large land space with concentrated cities, things like that, and a lot of rural areas where people don't have the opportunity to get to these financial institutions and to actually have access to that. So, but we break that financial inclusion and the access problem down to three specific problems. One is the physical access. If you could imagine, I think the majority of people on this call, if you wanted to do some work at the bank, some transactions, some payments, open an account, it would be pretty easy. You'd get into your vehicle, you drive to the closest shopping center, and you would be bombarded with a choice of any of the big five banks and their offerings. We would be able to walk in and transact. For a lot of the people in our country, that's not the case. We've got a lot of rural areas, and for them to have that same experience, they would sometimes have to take 2 or even 3 taxis just to reach this destination. They would have to take a full day out of their lives as well, trying to survive. And this is a big problem. So this is keeping people away from financial offerings. The second one is, of course, the financial access. Traditional banking is expensive. And within South Africa, the problem is even more prominent. With South Africa, I don't want to really say boasting, but with South Africa being charged with one of the most expensive countries to actually be part of a financial organization with regards to our bank costs. So for people living paycheck to paycheck, having no guarantee of income, it's just way too expensive to be part of this elite community. And then, of course, the third one is the emotional access. We've all seen it. If you go into a bank, it could sometimes be a very intimidating experience. I was very fortunate enough to see this firsthand, where people actually would walk into a financial institutions and be bombarded by so many different products, so many different benefits. You don't know where to start, and this could be pretty exhausting. And because of this confusion and because of this disconnect, it does cause a lot of mistrust between some clients and the financial institutions. So, well, how did we solve this problem? Or how does South Africa's financial organizations tackle this problem? Well, we believe it's actually very simple. What we did is we had a look at the African market. Well, starting with the global market first, we had a look at digital banking. Digital banking was very, when we started this journey, it was very appealing. Putting the financial power into the user's hands, giving that freedom. But the definition of digital banking in the world is not necessarily the definition that Africa needs. We've got very unique African problems where not just location, we've got different income, we've got geographical challenges. So we had a look at what is a uniquely African digital bank. That kicked off our journey by partnering up with two of South Africa's big retail stores, Pick n Pay and Boxer. Together they have about 800 stores across Africa. So we started developing a kiosk machine that we could go drop in all of those stores and allow people to start interacting with the bank in a area or a geographical location that is comfortable for them. Our process we had to make as simple as possible. So when you see these machines in Pick n Pay and you see them in Boxer, all you have to do is sign up for your account with your biometrics using your thumbprint. And there's a few questions and things that get asked to qualify you, of course, but within 5 minutes, you would have sign up, you would have access to an account, access to transact with traditional banking features, payments, transfers, things like that. And then at the end of the whole experience, you would have a Visa debit card that has got a personal name on it. And for a lot of people, just having a card with their name on it was something that was never within that reach. So this is really something that we believe is very cool. And it's something that we like to share with everyone, because it was, of course, the very first step to get people into this whole financial inclusion dream. Now, what do you get for that 5 minutes of investment of your time? Well, the card, you get the card, of course, that you can go use to transact like we would do with any other financial institution or banking institution within the world. You get access to our smart app, and for our users who don't have smartphones, USSD. You get a full internet banking portal where you can start interacting and managing your finances. You also get to deposit and withdraw at any Pick n Pay or Boxer tills. Now, I just want to stop there to just explain to you guys how powerful that actually is. One of well, let's do it like this. The big 5 banks, every year they have a look at what their offering is. And one of the marks they get measured on is, well, how easy is it to withdraw money? So we look at the sheer amount of ATMs that specific institution has got present within South Africa. And one of the banks, they've topped that list for quite a few years now, and they've got more or less 9,500 ATMs across South Africa. Now, that's not a lot if you look at our geographical footprint within this earth. And we are very proud to say that because we have partnered up with Pick n Pay and Boxer at the tills itself, we have nearly doubled the amount of withdrawal points that the industry was used to offering. And with us being able to distribute those tills around South Africa, we've actually made it closer to where people live. We've made it more accessible to people and not just concentrated in urban areas where you'd find things like shopping centers. And then last but not least, ATMs. So you could still use your account like any other accounts, go to any ATM, any merchant that has some form of point of sale, and use this card to purchase or interact with that business. So did we succeed? I would say definitely yes. So with only 18 months after launching, TymeBank has actually been rated as one of the top 3 digital banks in South Africa. Insight Consulting is a company in South Africa, and they release an annual report that measures consumer satisfaction with digital bank services in South Africa. We've got a negative score, 100 score, and a positive 100 score being the best. TymeBank achieved within their very first 18 months a customer satisfaction score of 74. That's just seven points shy of first place, and that's just fantastic for us. And having the honor of actually working on this project, it's very nice to see that all that hard work is actually being appreciated by our customers. Currently, we've got close to 2 million users, and that user base grows with 120 users per month. And of course, that brings a lot of security concerns or security considerations that we need to have in place. And we need to find a balance between our security and user experience. As you've heard previously, a lot of our clients don't have the experience we have with banking accounts, managing their funds. So we are constantly evaluating the differences. Why are we taking on this responsibility? Well, the financial sector is still revered as the pioneer of digitalization. With online banking constantly evolving, the industry and its disruptors continue to spearhead customer experience. But as a digital offering from a financial service organization become increasingly sophisticated, the user demands have risen rapidly. Customers now expect a user-friendly experience that not just encompass one form of interaction point, let's say a till point or maybe a desk, but you now have a mobile device. You've got IoT devices out there. You've got tablets and websites. So providing the optimal user experience across all those banking applications is therefore business critical. And engaging with your customers and actually having the ability to evolve that process has become priority for us. So with all of this in mind, we are constantly evaluating this fine balance between security and convenience for the sole purpose that with any imbalance between these two factors, there's real costs involved, whether that be with customers not feeling safe within our four walls, or just purely the user experience acts as a deterrent for any additional business. That brings me to the concept of what does CIM actually look like? This was actually a very controversial slide for me, and while I was showing this to our team, the comments I got was, you know, it's complex. We can't make sense of this. It's not intuitive, and the reason behind it is because customer identity and access management is difficult. It's a challenge that not most of the technical experts can tackle. It's a very unique problem. And just looking at for instance, Johann's presentation, where he was talking about the features that the IS actually has, it's quite a lot. And you need all those features to tackle today's modern problem. But what I want to do is just take a little bit different approach. I want to see if I can't simplify a lot of those aspects and actually show you what we did. So I'm just quickly going to stop sharing. I just had to share this with you guys. I want to show you our website and our portal that we have developed over the past few months, and just show you how the CIM features are actually coming through in a real world product. So this is our landing page. And of course, part of the CIM journey, and I had a very ugly pinwheel to show you all of the aspects, and thanks, Steve, for convincing me to take it out. But we have to manage the entire life cycle of a client. And the very first thing is user onboarding. So we had to carry over that simplistic 5-minute onboarding process to purely a website. We wanted to bring that features and that experience to all of our users, not just users that actually have access to those stores. Now, all you need to do at TymeBank to get an account is you need a South African ID number, and you need if you're going through the web portal, a cell phone number. If you are going through our physical kiosk, it's just your biometrics, and you need to be 16 and older. Now, that is a very simplified version of what a financial institution needs to know about their customers. There's an entire KYC that goes along. So progressive profiling is one of the key features that a decent CIM solution needs. You need to learn more about your client as you grow. So you need the minimal information to turn a stranger into a customer. And then from there on, start building the relationship between customer and organization to, first of all, build the trust, build better knowledge of your customers, and start growing it from there. I want to take you guys to our login screen as well. And another part of CIM is, of course, identity management. So we've got a whole backend that manages all of that, but we have to hide that complexity somehow. And what we had to do is figure out what is the easiest way for our users to actually use this newly created account. Well, plain and simple, have your login page with an ID number and the password. That brings up the thing from, I need identity management, I need password management, I need a whole authorization mechanism in the back end. And as Johann mentioned as well, you need things like analytics and additional features to actually simplify the user experience, but still maintain the security in the back end. So I'll just bring my presentation back up here for you guys. But now all of that didn't just happen overnight. We had to boil down a few key aspects and problems that we had to tackle. Now, this was quite a while ago, and we have since modified a lot of these things, but I would like to take you through the journey of the very first hurdles we had to face. Well, of course, it always starts with the user. Being a customer-centric organization, worrying about what the user actually experiences during their interaction with us was very, very important. And that takes us through to the devices. The majority of our users interact with our bank not face-to-face, not through a call center agent or a financial representative. They interact with us through these kiosks, their mobile devices, internet portal, things like that. So that is our very first entry point into our ecosystem. And because of that, we required a solution that would, first of all, give us a very strong authentication backend, as well as some session management functionality. Now, when we originally had this use case for session management, this was not yet a feature of the identity server. But luckily, the identity server being an open source product, we could actually just gut it and actually have it function the way we want it to. Now, as you guys sit there and listen to this, you're thinking, oh, I don't want to customize this thing and everything just to get session management. The good news is, as these customizations actually got battle hardened, it has become part of the new features of the new identity server. So we had to look at how do people interact, first of all, using these devices, and how can we actually authenticate them in these multi-channel environments. The second thing we had to look at from after the user interacts with the devices, how do we apply adaptive authentication? We are asking our clients two facts. We are asking them their ID number and we are asking them their password. So we needed some form of backend that would maintain that simplicity from a user experience point of view, but add the additional security layers as we mature during our identity process. So it started up with a ID number and a password, but in the future, we wanted to be able to challenge a user with USSDs. We wanted to challenge a user with a two-factor authentication pop-up in the application. We wanted to carry this, have the freedom to actually upgrade the user security by not necessarily changing the front-end experience, but actually changing it in the back end. Then the third thing we had to consider was user management, user token management and subscription. Being a digital bank, we do expose quite a few APIs to our partners. So we had to consider about a solution that gives the same type of user experience that our internet banking and our kiosk has, as well to our developer community. So we had to make sure that that process is simple, easy, and enforces strict industry standards. And then, of course, we had to look at user token substitution or bridging, as the industry has delved that term. we had to look at other systems that we have in our ecosystem. Traditional banking comes with a lot of out-of-the-box solutions. And even though we have built this bank from scratch, you still have to bring a lot of those products into your ecosystem, each coming with some form of proprietary security mechanisms, or some form of claim transition or transfers that has to happen during all of this. So we required a system that would be able to receive the authentication from the front end, actually generate some JWT tokens that carry the claim, carry the signatures, and would pass it on to all of our other systems where we have microservices that use that JWT as some form of authentication mechanism, or as a mechanism to transfer user claims to further enhance their experience. So looking at the very first hurdles we had to tackle, the WSO2 identity server with its rich feature set could assist us with all of those problems. And some of the key benefits that we actually experienced was the improved security that it just gave us. We leveraged the core out-of-the-box features to ensure that the security measures are in place and meet all audit requirements. Well, of course, the ease of use that it gave us to easily and quickly get all of this in place to start servicing our clients with a secure backend. And of course, productivity gains. Because of all of these features being part of the WSO2 identity server, not a lot of customization actually had to happen. And because it comes with this, ships with this vast number of protocols that it supports, integrating it into other systems wasn't that difficult. So what's next? Of course, being a digital bank, we always look at the future. We look at what's happening within the organization, and we look at what our customers require. I think everyone has probably seen what's happening in the news currently with Twitter hacked, and we heard about Yahoo's hack, and that has a very, very expensive repercussion once that happens. With over 80% of security breaches being password related, with the average cost of fixing that of around $3.9 million. And also considering that the average person spends around 11 hours a year just managing their passwords and having about between 25 and 85 passwords, we really want to start tackling that user experience problem, as not just from a UX point of view, but also from a security point of view. So what we want to do is we want to introduce our market to a secure user-centric passwordless ecosystem, a full end-to-end way to interact with our platform and our features without having to worry about password managers, or the lack of security that actually follows that pattern. But there are, of course, some key considerations to achieve our futuristic goals. We have to think about privacy, sustainability, scalability, of course, our pleasant user experience. And following the whole theme, we need to be inclusive. And we have to bring that feature, this password-led feature, to the African market in a way that tackles our unique problems of everyone not having smartphones, not everyone having constant internet access, with data bundles and things being so expensive within this country. So we're seriously working very hard to find an African solution to this problem. We will see the solution moving away from passwords and towards alternative biometrics that could even include facial recognition, fingerprint authentication, some QR codes, and with the rapid evolution of machine learning, and it being one of my passions, of course, and now I'm trying to push this as well. And with the features of the IS as well, its built-in features, we're looking at even using system recognition habits, the user's habits and how they interact with the system as additional hurdles that we can use to feed this adaptive authentication model that we have built in the back end. But we are dreaming big, and there's a lot of features and a lot of use cases out there for us to solve. But we really do believe that it's a reality and not just a dream. So we're looking to bring this to the future and bring this to the market. So I just want to take this time and thank DeARX and WSO2 for giving us this opportunity for us to share our story of inclusiveness, how we want to bring our dream and our passion to our markets. Second of all, I just want to thank Time for the opportunity for us to be able to share the story with the audience, to share our passion with them. And then, of course, I want to thank the audience themselves for listening to me go on about a very complex topic. I've tried to simplify it quite a lot, and I've tried to convey it over to you guys. And I want you guys to have a look at our till points. And next time you find yourself in a Boxer store or a Pick and Pay, I want you to go to that kiosk and actually challenge the 5-minute promise that I've made during this presentation. Let me know if I did my job well. And yeah, hopefully we can inspire a similar style of user experience, user-centric, inclusive culture within the rest of the banking sector. Thank you very much.
Johnny, thank you very much. That was passionate and beautifully articulated. Just want to cancel that video. So no further questions have come through yet. So we're now moving towards wrap and close. So if anybody does have any questions before we do that, please feel free to raise a hand or start typing on the Q&A screen. I hope that, so what I will do in the interim, while we see if anything does come through, I'll just start to close. I hope that everyone has been able to, let me just start my video, sorry about that. I hope that everyone has been able to enjoy the journey of the vision presented by Prabath, the product capabilities, which we saw how extensive that was from Johann, and then a real life experience, so beautifully shared by Johnny and the team at Time. So if there's, I haven't seen any questions, so what I'll do is just share my screen with you to just remind you of what we've got coming from here. So that takes care of the top part of episode 2. On Thursday, what we'll do is we're going to reconvene, and like we did last week Thursday, we'll go into, so think about it like a breakout session. And if you want to be more interactive and you want to have your specific use case discussed, or any particular challenges that you are facing in your environment that you'd like to unpack, the idea behind Thursday is we've set aside 2 hours to do a deep dive. So view it as being in a conference facility and moving across into a breakout session where the agenda is really free form and available to you to dictate the process. Then from next, actually we're going to miss a week. So we're not going to be online for episode 3 next week, Tuesday. The schedule is to skip next week and to move to the week after. So that takes us to the 4th and 6th of August, which is our final week in this series. So episode 3 is, we stay with TymeBank, but in this case, we're now going to switch topic and we're going to go kind of against functional product and go into cloud. And in that session, what we're going to do is Paul Fremantle will be back with us. And so Paul won't be doing an opening keynote, but he's offered to close our series for us. So if you've been able to participate right from the outset last week, Tuesday, Paul will bring a closing wrap. And then the case study is going to be presented by Gino, and he'll take us through how TymeBank has deployed and improved their implementations through the use of WSO2, but specifically in AWS. And so whether you are a WSO2 customer or not, the topic of cloud and the capabilities of AWS specifically are compelling and certainly topical. So I think you'll enjoy that presentation. And then from a WSO2 perspective, flexibility is a core attribute, and the ability to deploy, and per that slide I shared earlier on today, to deploy in a hybrid environment or hybrid architecture, a multi-cloud. So Shamurth will take us through the WSO2 cloud capability, as well as their sort of vision and strategy in that space, because as both Prabath and Johann talked about it today, you can see a lot of cloud being key to how the WSO2 architecture is going to play out into the future. Okay, so that's it from me. I don't know if anybody's seen any other questions that have come up yet.
Nope.
No? All good. In that case, thank you for joining us for this session today. That's a wrap, and hope to catch you guys on Thursday, 9 o'clock. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.